Welcome in, listeners. It is time for episode 98 of the Slump Buster Podcast. I'm your host, Juju Talk Sports, and my guest today is going to be Chris LeBron of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. On today's episode, we talk the NBA Finals, Team USA struggles, and take a look at Damian Lillard's trade options. But before we do, folks, it's time to give a shout out to our partners. Caveman Coffee Co. Caveman is a fantastic single source, single origin goodness from a company with impeccable taste and ethics. The people behind it are beautiful souls, and the coffee is delicious fuel for the never-ending quest to do better, be better, love harder, and enjoy deeper. Guys, I tell you, their Nitro Cold Brew is the perfect blend of energy and refreshment in the morning. Great way to start the day. But why stop there? They have their Mammoth blends, which I highly encourage you getting. They have their hibiscus teas, which are delicious. And guys, if you use our promo code SLUMP, you get 15% off your next purchase of any of these fantastic products. cavemancoffeeco.com, promo code SLUMP. Guys, don't be a chump. Use promo code SLUMP and get yourself a case today. All right, guys, it's time for the episode. Chris LeBron, Juju Talk Sports, episode 98. Let's get it. Let's bust the slump and let's enjoy. Welcome in, Slump Busters. It is time for episode 98 of the Slump Buster Podcast. Two away, folks. Two away from that magical 100 spot. So to do this, to get on this episode, I got to bring in a three-time guest, Chris LeBron of the Off the Ball Network, of the Off the Ball Podcast. You've heard him before. He's back, folks. And Chris, how are you doing this fine morning, sir?
Man, Julian, happy to be back on the show, man. It's been a while, but I'm excited to be on, man. It's been great to see your rise with everything, and man, I'm just excited to be back and talk ball.
Hey, well, we were talking about it. We've taken bits and pieces from each other here. There's a lot of great things that you are doing, a lot of great things we're doing, and there's not one way to do it. We're finding out that there is different fan bases for different things going on. You guys, you started off specializing in basketball. Obviously, you branched out in a lot of different areas here too. We mostly focus on football. We've kind of done some other things as well. So, it's just about that journey. And hey, at the end of the day, we all love sports.
That it's just that simple. We all love sports, and when you have that passion and all that, and then you surround yourself with good people who know what they're doing and can just expand the product. It's been fun, man. And like I said, it's dope seeing you guys just absolutely kill it, week by week. So man, it's just been great, man. I just enjoying doing what I'm doing.
Probably the next thing we really got to do is, because you've already mastered this one here, merch. We have not got any merch out there. Now we have some ideas there. We got some stuff in the canister, but it's about finding a good, I don't know what people like, t-shirts more, hats. I mean, you're rocking a solid hat there that this is going to be a video-based podcast that people can see. If you're listening audio only, sorry about it, but check out the YouTube, subscribe there.
Yeah. It's the merch it's tough to try like figure out designs and all that. That's the tough part and all that, but people do like merch, wristbands, all that little stuff, hats, shirts. So just trying to branch off in that direction.
Well, the great part is if you don't have a graphic design background, there is plenty of people that are willing to, get paid to do that. And turns out the internet is a great place to find all the people that know how to get magical with that artsy stuff.
Yeah, the internet is, if you don't know what you're doing, just there's the thing called Google or YouTube, and boom, problem solved.
There you go. Networking, LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll meet someone there. Use your networks, use your tools, people. You have plenty of resources out there. Internet existing is more than our previous generations had. Mm-hmm. So it's never been easier to get something you want done. You just got to go
and
out
on
there.
Twitter, if you just put like, I need a graphic designer, like your mentions would get blown up in an instant. It's just put I need a graphic designer, and your mentions you'll have 20 people in your DMs like, it's instantly. So it's definitely easy to just, to go on the internet and just do that. And then boom, you'll find someone. That's how I've done it a few times with promo stuff, with intro music and graphics. I just literally put it on Twitter. Hey, can someone help me? And then boom.
Yeah, it tells you how many starving artists there are out there, just on Twitter, just like waiting. I gotta get this mail, I gotta get this paycheck in. Looking for artists. Okay, I got you, fam. I gotta eat.
It doesn't matter what time, 3 a.m. You could be like, I'm looking for a graphic, and boom, like it's like instant, like 30 replies. It's wild.
All right, man. Well, one of the big reasons, obviously, I want to bring you on. again, I mentioned you started off with a basketball focus. And in particular, we got a lot of basketball headlines going on. So I got to start you off with the most important basketball headline of the week. How did you enjoy Space Jam?
Yes, that was a when that came out, it was crazy how the internet reacted to that. I enjoyed it. I didn't go into it hating it. A lot of people went into that hating it because they love Space Jam. I love the first Space Jam. I think most people do, but you just go into it thinking it's not going to be the first Space Jam. It's going to be different, and I enjoyed it. It was people. I think too many people they're like, oh, LeBron James acting was horrible. It's like, he's a basketball player. He's not Denzel. He's not Jamie Foxx. Michael Jordan wasn't out there, winning Oscars and all that. So it's like, you go in it, it's enjoy. It's a nice little. Had some nice Easter eggs and all that, which is pretty cool. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was solid, and I liked the colors and all that. And so it was fun. It was a fun film.
I didn't hate it as much as the internet obviously hated it. Yeah. But what I will say is that everything pre the Looney Tunes arriving in that film was the worst film that I had ever seen. Just in general, and it's not so much LeBron. It's more so the dialogue that they wrote for LeBron. It just sounded like normal people don't talk like this. You can listen to any podcast and listen to random people communicate all the time. And no time would they ever have the type of interaction that LeBron was having with his kids. And by the way, that wasn't even his real kids during the movie, right? If I'm not mistaken. I was like, where's Bronny? Bronny, where you at? Probably not allowed in a kid.
They were trying to portray the ages and all that. But yeah, I agree with that. In the beginning, it was like, all right, something's got to happen quick because, like you said, LeBron isn't Denzel and all that, and it kind of showed in the beginning, but then it started getting going. But I agree. The beginning, me and my girl were looking at each other like,
this is like
something's got to give. Come on, let's go, LeBron.
A little cringe, and then obviously the Looney Tunes get in there. It's fine. The whole premise too. And by the way, if you're listening to this, and I don't really care about spoilers myself, some people do. It's a touchy subject. We're talking spoilers, so if that bothers you, go ahead and skip ahead here. The whole premise behind it too, the LEG thing. And, by the way, too, I will say this. So Warner Bros. Owns the rights to Captain Planet. You have a movie with Don Cheadle, and you don't give me at least Don Cheadle turning one person into a tree. Shame on you, Warner Brothers. Shame on you. But just the whole premise, like, what was this thing? Like, I want to get a popular celebrity for, was he trying to take over the world? Was he trying to get credit? I don't get his motivation, really.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it wasn't perfect, but it is what it was.
It is what it is. At least kids like
expectations need to be tampered down because it was just a nice little fun flick. So there was some cringe. There were definitely some moments where you're like,
Yeah, I mean, if anything, too, it was a great opportunity for Warner Brothers basically to throw their dick on the table and basically just say, look at how many properties we own, Disney. Whenever it's, let me just throw in a Rick and Morty. Let me just throw in a Game of Thrones. Let me just throw in the DC universe.
They stunted hard on that one. They did. I think that was the most telling thing, was seeing everything.
Harry
Batman,
Potter,
Superman, Harry Potter,
Lord of the Rings. They got all this they got all this mystical kind of properties too. A lot of fun stuff that Warner Brothers owns, but I guess honestly, with that said, considering you own all these properties, it would have been great to not have it as just a one-off or that thing in the background that you kind of oh, hey, I see that White Walker walking around there. It would have been kind of nice to actually see that stuff maybe in the game. I wouldn't mind if LeBron actually recruited who he wanted to be on this team. That real. You know what? Actually, that could be a fun thing. Let's do this, Chris. Any character in any genre to start your basketball franchise.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, right. I know. I mean, that's what we do around here. So we don't mess around.
Any superhero, any
superhero, any genre, whatever you're feeling, man. Who do you think can ball out the hardest?
All right. You know what? This is my guy. I'm gonna go Batman.
Okay, intellectual thinker. He could be like Chris Paul times 10. Hopefully he lock down a ring. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Have that. Do you have one of those in the utility belt there, Batman? I shouldn't be talking shit. I got the Batman gear rocking in the background. You know what I'm about here too. Well, I guess if we're going on that circumstance, you know what? Actually, no. I'm going to say Plastic Man, or Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four. You know, the fact that they could kind of like elongate themselves and everything, like that LeBron James or that Michael Jordan effect from the first Space Jam can actually happen with those guys like crazy body types. I know, you know, you could go Superman, you know, but I'm going a little off the ball here.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. You can't go wrong with Superman either.
Could go wrong with Superman unless there's a green rock on the court. Put the put one of those ugly like Milwaukee Bucks uniforms that were the all green. What was it? The bright green threads they had on at one point. Can I say this? And this will be like a fun little kind of like diversion topic here. I kind of got fed up with all the alternate jerseys in the NBA this year. I don't know about you.
Like the Milwaukee wearing blue, those blue jerseys they were wearing, the blue and black. I didn't get it. They're a green team.
No, exactly. And then the one live NBA game I went to this year with the Rockets and the Lakers, we had the Rockets wearing that all blue jersey too that they had on. I don't know if you remember it, the powder blues, which it just didn't really feel right. You know, I don't know. Like if it was like a one-off thing, okay, cool. I could see it, you know, but like, I think in a way the NFL almost does have it right with not oversaturating us with throwback jerseys, kind of like a once in a while thing. Mm-hmm. Or if you're like the Chargers and you have like 7 jerseys that are all amazing. And I'll give that to one of our coworkers, I guess, colleagues here on the Slump Buster Network here. But, you know, big time Chargers fan. Chargers do have the sickest jerseys and the sickest alternates in the league.
They really do.
But like the NBA, I just felt like it was just like some of these city jerseys and everything. I was just kind of over it. There was some teams just didn't even look right. I was watching one Lakers versus Nets game, and they were both wearing alternate jerseys that looked like the other team's colors. So that was like one of the most confusing watches, like when the stars weren't on the court.
NBA tends to do a little too much, you know, but they want money, so I'm not shocked.
they want money, you know, let's talk about this. Like, who's going to be making the money for the next few years? Will it be Giannis, who may have established himself as the greatest player in the NBA currently? Is that the question? I mean, you're talking about now a 2-time MVP, 1-time finals MVP, dropped 50 points in a closeout game 6, and is now an NBA champion. Chris, what do you have to say about Giannis and the Bucks closing this one out?
It was very impressive what they were able to do, especially going down 0-2. If you just based the series off the first 2 games, it was like, all right, the Suns fan that does Suns in 4, it looked like it might have been Suns in 4, but they made the adjustments. They realized Jrue Holiday plays defense, and we're just going to put him on CP3 and stop the engine. I've been saying this whole series, like, you stop the engine, you're going to have a chance to win. And that's what they figured out. They put Jrue on him. Pat Connaughton was huge for them too. You know, he played some solid defense, but to me, it was just that simple. You know, lock up CP3, and you stop Ayton from doing things. You stop Bridges and all this, Cam Johnson from getting shots, and that's what happened. And they did that, and they won. It wound up being Bucks winning it 4. You know, they won 4 in a row, and Giannis was absolutely amazing. It's the fact that, you know, we saw him with the knee injury, and it looked like, oh wow, it's over for the Bucks, and then to be able to come back from that and just dominate the series, play his game too. Not try to do like he did in the Nets series where he was trying to do way too much, you know, try to be KD, try to be a perimeter player. No, go in the post, do your thing, hit your free throws, you know, shoot them in less than 20 seconds. And he did that. And he dominated. And then the closeout, I mean, that's one of the best closeout games you could possibly have. A 50 burger on them. So great performance. Definitely deserved everything. His legend is going to continue, and his story is, I mean, this guy played in the second division in Greece, which is like playing in like your local YMCA league, you know, and this scrawny kid from Greece, you know, went to the States and got better, improved, and look at him now. You know, what his peak is up there with some of the greatest peaks ever. Like, it's really amazing his journey, man, and it's really cool that the past 2-year failures, losing to Toronto 2 years ago in the conference finals, then losing last year to Miami in 5 the second round, and then be able to overcome everything this year and get it done. It's an amazing story for Giannis and the Bucks.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure how I would really feel about the Bucks winning, and that's mostly because I've shown a lot of praise, thrown a lot of flowers at Chris Paul over the last few weeks, and rightfully so. Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer, has done a lot to elevate the teams that he's recently been on, but to see Giannis and the post game and see him walk about Milwaukee, forever enshrined as one of Milwaukee and Wisconsin's all-time sports legends. Like, he's going to be mentioned all the time with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. And I'm pretty sure if you polled most Wisconsin fans, they probably put Giannis ahead of Aaron Rodgers right now as far as their all-time love list. I mean, I'll put that narrative out there because you look, they're over there making the crybaby beer they're serving in local breweries over the Aaron Rodgers situation. Giannis just seems so beloved, and he seems like that man of the people that I think that people really kind of connect with. I know that there's been a lot of chatter over the narrative of him getting his ring without a super team. And, you know, I buy into that because it's nice to see a guy who gets drafted by an organization, who's been loyal to the organization, signs that extension with them, just waits for them to build around him, put the right pieces in place. And to see him come down with that trophy, and then, of course, him in that driveway in that Chick-fil-A pulling down that 50 piece there, it really spoke to that, like, sense of fanhood in me, you know, why we cheer for these teams, why we die with these teams, why, like, I'm a diehard Celtics fan, a Niners fan, a Giants fan, you know, to see like a homegrown talent do it gives you those warm and fuzzy feelings, doesn't it?
It really does. And you're a San Francisco Giants fan, and you saw 3 championships in what, a 5-year span. You saw how that team, there was no true superstars on those teams that won 3 World Series and all that. So you've seen that. I think there's something about Giannis, you know, that he's not your typical superstar, right? We see all these other superstars and they're very buddy, which is fine. That's cool. But he's different, right? You don't really see. Another thing is, like, you didn't see a lot of like players until he won, like, really go for him. Like, everyone was rooting for CP3 and all that, but for him, it was different. And just the story. I think everyone loves the story. You know, how he got there. I think that's the biggest thing, is the story of how he got there. It's the American dream. You know, he came there with nothing and not great to speak in English, and comes to this country to live a better life for his family, and he did it. He did it. I think that's what people love about it, is that he came to this guy, worked his tail off, and he did it. He's one of the best at his profession, and is making generational wealth for his family, and allowed his brothers to make a living in the NBA. You know, he's got another brother in high school. You know, I feel like there's a new Antetokounmpo every year. There's like another one in the pipeline, but you know, he's able to change lives and his family, and just, he's kind of like a normal person, that, like, in a way, because you saw him, he's at a Chick-fil-A waiting online. Like, he's a superstar player making all this money, and he's waiting online at a Chick-fil-A. Like, you know how Chick-fil-A lines are.
And maybe that's kind of the beauty of him also being in Wisconsin, a more humble market, you know. Like, if he was in a New York or in LA, I could see him being to the point where he literally can't go out in those cities. He would get mobbed every single place he would go. And I could understand that's a little thing. So maybe one of his only knocks is people are going to throw at him at one point in his career, I'm sure, when they look back at his legacy, he never had to deal with the trials and tribulations of being in a Chicago, like a Michael Jordan, or being in, you know, LA, like a Shaq or a Kobe, you know, dealing with those fans, dealing with that media. I'm sure, like, when we look back at his legacy, there's going to be some people who will throw that at him, because we've seen some smaller market talent who have won titles have that narrative thrown out to them in the past. One thing, though, I think that he's on a crash course for is to become the greatest international player in NBA history. Obviously, like I mentioned, the multiple MVPs, the title already. He's still only 26 years old, which that always hurts whenever I have a player that's younger than me. But yes, he is 26 years old. So he can only get better. Obviously, we always talk about the narrative of his free throws, shooting, maybe considered a more casual take, but sure, you know, if he does improve on those knocks on his game, then he'll literally be unstoppable as a offensive weapon. He's already one of the greatest defensive players in the game, too. Obviously, a defensive player of the year. Giannis just has like such a skill set that's so unique. And then the come up, I mean, one of my favorite stats that was thrown out there, one of my favorite meme stats is that him and Chris Middleton combined were the lowest rated 2K players in their first rookie year. And I think that's fun to see where he is now. Obviously, a clear 97 minimum player in the game. But yeah,
he might be 99 this year after this, man.
Yeah. What do you think about that, though? Me saying that he could become the greatest international player in NBA history. Obviously, you have some really good ones out there, whether it be a Dirk or a Hakeem Olajuwon, or what we're seeing now. Who knows? Luka is looking great as well.
I mean, it's not a wild thing to say. I mean, just look at his career to date. I mean, he's already got a world championship, a finals MVP, dropped 50 in a clincher to win the championship, 2-time MVP, defensive player of the year, 5-time All-Star. If he retires now, he's up there, and that's crazy. But he's only 26, and like you said, he can get better. That's scary. He got better from the Nets series to the Atlanta series to the Suns series. So he got better within, just a couple series.
Yeah. What was that? 17 out of 19 on the free throws. Again, one of the biggest knocks on his game, and he corrected that. Now, it's not a permanent fix. Anyone could have like those hot streaks from time to time. Every now and then, I have a good game of beer pong. But, Giannis, the fact that he was knocking them down in the clutchest of clutch situations to shut up Skip Bayless and the likes of them, loud mouths like me, they're out there, shoot. Meanwhile, I'm over there airmailing the basket.
Yeah, it's true. It's crazy that he can get better and all that. The free throws got better. I mean, he went 17 and 19. I mean, the last free throw he missed, it was, it didn't really matter. So I don't really count that last one, but he got better. He did, the countdown, started with the net series to 20. I mean, I think one point it got 21. It's like
counting out the money, all that good stuff.
The guy counting the money in the series, in the Sun series, and it's like he didn't let that affect him. Like he shot an air ball. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna keep doing my thing. I'm just doing my routine, and and he realized, all right, I do got to pick it up. I think he did realize I got to pick it up, but he hit his free throws. I mean, that's all he needs to do is hit his free throws, and he could probably average 35 a game.
Just play that bully ball to the basket that he does, and then no more hack a Shaq for him. He could just go there and shoot with confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the next question there is like, what next does he have to do to be considered a Mount Rushmore player? The guys that are like we're talking about in that top 10, top 5 conversation, because again, long career to go. I think obviously base minimum, people would probably like him to lock down one more title. If he locks down another MVP, though, he's already cemented within the greats of the game.
The Mount Rushmore. I mean, he's still got some ways to go. Because he's just like you said, he's only 26 years old. It feels like he's been in the league for longer than that. But he's
just a lot of hardware.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of hardware already at 26. I mean, it's pretty crazy how much hardware he has. But if he keeps going at this rate, wins another 2 MVPs and 2 championships. I mean, yeah, he could definitely get there, but it also got to see what Kevin Durant does, because he's kind of right there too. Like, right, he may be a little ahead of Giannis right now, but Giannis winning that championship, and how he won it, right? Because we know, I value, what Kevin Durant did, but let's face it, it's definitely a lot easier when you're playing with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and those Warriors teams, right? It's easier basketball, right?
We had a poll on IG the other day that was regarding one of First Take's topics. Would you rather have Giannis's 1 ring with the team that you were drafted by, or KD's 2? And it was about a 70% ratio of fans that said they would just take the 1 ring from Giannis, which I think that's telling of how polarizing Kevin Durant's legacy will be in the long run, too, if he's not able to lock down a title, in theory, without other blue chip players on his team. Now, one thing, too, that could affect Giannis long term, and he seems like the type of guy that would do this, and this is why it's going to be interesting for his legacy move forward. He's such a humble guy. He likes Milwaukee. He likes that small market. Could you see him just taking these team-friendly deals to allow the Bucks to acquire more talent as he goes, and by virtue, keeping that team a solid contender year in and year out? Because we got to face it, Milwaukee's not a crazy free agent destination, so you got to pay guys if you want to make them go there.
I mean, that's always interesting. I mean, he can do like LeBron did and all that, but I think he's willing to do that because he wants to win, and that's what he's done his whole career. So I think definitely he could take some type of less than what the super max would be for the team. So I think definitely because he wants to win. He cares about winning. He wants the other guys to get paid too, and that's something we've seen. Like he cares about Drew Holiday getting paid and Middleton and all that. So I could definitely see him taking less to sustain this because it's hard. Guys want to get paid and all that. It is not just the star players, it's the role players who starred in their role who want to get, and that's where the money starts going, right? It's not just
Dennis Schroeder.
Dennis, yeah, man, that's crazy. He wants too much money, but he wants way too much money. But that's where the cap gets tricky is when those middle tier players, that are important to the team, the PJ Tuckers and all that, say, "Hey, I was a big part of this too," and they want to get a nice chunk of change. So, but I think when he gets to that second contract, maybe he'll take a little bit less, not too much. The play association doesn't want to make you to take too less of a cut, because LeBron did that for a while, but they're like, and then LeBron finally's like, nah, you got to get paid for
of course,
doing, because he was kind of underpaid as a player. So for Giannis, I think he'll take some less to fill in, extra couple, get a couple of solid role players on the team.
Yeah, I think there's just less pressure on like a Giannis to keep like driving the league in the way that LeBron had to keep like driving the league, driving player salaries and everything. I feel like Giannis can be a little bit more ad lib and be comfortable doing in his environment than LeBron, who's trying to build a legacy, trying to build a brand behind him, the brand that is LeBron James. I don't feel like Giannis is really doing that. Maybe he's going to get a marketing director that's going to be like, hey, man, we got to start getting that Greek freak, camp, those shoes, that everything going on. And maybe once that comes down the line, money always has a way of poisoning the well there, but maybe things could change in a few years. But from what I see, from the guy I see in front of me today, I don't see that from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, of course, there's always the other side when it comes to a finals victory. There's the finals loss. And I love Chris Paul. I've been praising Chris Paul. Everyone's been praising Chris Paul with the last few weeks. And it sucks to see the 37-year-old, 36-year-old, what is he, 37, 36? Am I getting wrong?
36, yeah, he'll be 37.
Okay, gotcha. I'm just aging him up a year. Okay. Feels like 40, whatever.
Yeah, he's definitely up there.
Anyway, it sucks to see him lose out on potentially his last best chance at a ring, or is it? What do you think Chris Paul does this offseason? Do you think he goes back to the Suns? Because obviously that team got hot at the right time. There are other options out there that may be more conducive to a title.
Yeah, and you're hearing a lot of the Lakers stuff, and I get it, play with LeBron and all that. If I were to talk to CP3, I'd be like, let's run it back. I know he's probably would decline his player option, which is probably around like $42 million. It's crazy that you could turn down that, but he wants, I think he's going to want that 3-year, $100 million where I think he can get with the Suns. To me, I would just run it back. I mean, did they benefit from some injuries? Yeah, but that happens every year, so this team is young. They're up and coming. Booker is a star. He's only going to learn from this. Ayton's got so much better with CP3. Bridges, Cam Johnson, all these guys, add a couple vets, I think they should come back and run it back again. It feels like he was embraced in Phoenix. You go to the Lakers and, we know what you're doing, and I get it, right? You want to win that championship, but it's like, we know what you're doing. And then that's just it might dilute you. If he does do it, it might dilute it, so why not? You were this close, you were 2 games away. Figure out what happened, what went wrong. And go back to the film room, figure out what you need to do to make sure that doesn't happen again and run it back. Like this team is ascending. They have a great coach. They have a great culture there. I know everyone talks about the West being better, but I think they're one of the top tier teams in the West, so they don't have to worry about if the Lakers are going to get better or the Warriors and all that. I think they're in that top 4 no matter what. If I was him, I would run it back, go back and try to get back again, so.
Yeah, the only concerning
decision, but it's it's going to be tough for him.
The only concerning thing I have with that and running it back is who gets better. You would think Chris Paul can only get worse because he played his best basketball in the last few years. You have to think that Devin Booker is close, if not at his potential ceiling. I mean, the guy is one of the most elite scorers in the game, but you can only take that so far. Is he going to start averaging 35 to 40 points a game? Probably unlikely, but he's definitely at like one of that elite tiers of scores in the game today. DeAndre Ayton has played his best basketball at this point in his NBA career. Jay Crowder, guys like that probably take a step back. So for the Suns, you risk the potential of you only get worse this offseason adding age. So are they really ascending? What piece do the Suns make that makes them equally better than the rest of the Western Conference and certainly the Bucks when it comes to finals time? They looked amazing in those first two games, but as we saw, eventually the size and everything that the Bucks could throw at them, the defensive awareness of Jrue Holiday, even Chris Middleton in the game just eventually stopped them.
Yeah. And they drafted Jalen Smith last year out of Maryland, and I liked him, but he didn't really do much for them. He can potentially get better this year and be a piece next year. Like I said, they still got Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. I like this young core. Like I said, you add some solid vets. Like I said, Jay Crowder, was huge for them. So try to add a Jay Crowder type player. I do like them if they do run it back. I know CP3 is going to be older, going to be the big thing, but I think Booker is just going to get better. Losing is going to eat at him and potentially win an Olympic gold medal and all that. And that's just going to fuel him more to be there, because everyone talks about him having that Mamba mentality. Well, we saw what happened when Kobe lost to the Celtics, and lost it by 40 in that game 6, came back and won a championship. So maybe he ascends, like he's got stuff he needs to work on, as far as, and we know the double teams and his playmaking, but I think this is definitely going to help him and for towards next season. And he didn't make the All-Star team this year as he was a replacement and all that. So there's some disrespect with Booker that he can use to fuel him next year. And I think CP3 is going to have to figure out things, because he's the main thing. If CP3, I think they can get back. And I think he can still be CP3, but they need someone else other than Booker to take over scoring wise too. They need another scorer or another big, because if Ayton's in foul trouble, they had no one. They had no one. So if they can make little moves like that and see if Jalen Smith gets better, I think they can definitely do some things next year in the West.
All right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, because Devin Booker does have a chance to win a gold medal. Had to take an awkward plane trip with Chris Middleton. They are going to be in Tokyo, and Team USA has definitely made me worry about their chances this year, with a couple headlines coming about team chemistry recently with Kevin Durant and Bam getting into it. And then obviously 2 interesting losses to Nigeria and the Boomers out there in Australia. I'm concerned, man. I think they might not win it this year. I know they're the favorites. I know they have a great team. I look at the team and I'm like, God, how is anyone beating us? Our backups are better than some of these team starters. But we lost to Nigeria that had Jahlil Okafor, who was a bust in the NBA. None of these teams have real great NBA talent, a lot of replacement NBA talent on them. And yet we're still struggling with them. Can you explain to me what's going on? And can you explain to me why I should still have confidence in this Team USA?
The world has gotten better at basketball. I think a lot of these teams like Nigeria and all that, they've been playing together for a while, where the Americans, essentially, we just throw them out, right? Hey, we're better than you, because even if with our second tier, third tier players are better, but the world's better. Nigeria is actually has a solid. They got a couple pros. I think they got Josh Okogie from the Timberwolves. Like I said, Jahlil Okafor. I mean, I know he hasn't had the greatest of career, but he's still an NBA player. Like, so they have some guys. So the world is better at basketball, and I think we assume that we could just run it out and just take over the world. But this isn't 92. This isn't 96 where the world isn't that good no more. No, it's the times have changed, and the rest of the world is better. Like France is really good. But I think adding Booker, Middleton, Jrue Holiday, is definitely going to help this team. I know they lost Beal, but I think they're going to be fine. They may not run through the competition like they usually do. They might not sweep and not lose a game. They might lose a game here or there. But I'm so confident that they can win the gold. Like I said, add Middleton is going to be huge. Booker, like I said, Booker is going to be pissed off. He might just go off, for Team USA, but they still got Tatum. They still got Green, still got Kevin Durant. I mean, if they didn't have Kevin Durant or Jason Tatum, maybe a little bit worried, but I trust KD, will get these guys going and take over. So I still confident that they can come home with the gold.
There's a lot of elite scorers on this team, and that's probably why I've given them the benefit of the doubt more than anything. it just, you look at that starting five and it's just, how are we struggling? That's just been the biggest hump that I've been trying to get over mentally, because you look at the starting five of the teams they lost to. These guys, yes, again, you mentioned they have NBA guys, and that's great. No disrespecting them, but they have just NBA guys, NBA reserves, Patty Mills, guys who are on the bench. We have NBA all-stars, guys that are making all-team, NBA all-teams, and still they're not kind of like producing. And I know it's early, but this goes back to a couple years ago too, when we struggled in the World Tournament, the FIBA World Tournament. And that's when we first started this podcast too, actually. So I remember talking about those losses and like, oh, well, that's weird. But then to see it a couple of years later, still having the same struggles, that's where the concern is. Because if it was just an off couple games, that's something. But this is a couple years of us kind of having that. And in neither of those two games would you look and say that the best player was on the other team. Obviously, the only time that
I think it's a chemistry thing too.
Yeah, I get
chemistry too.
Yeah,
like the chemistry is huge. Like you said, I know people assume like you just run these guys out, they should be able to just dominate, but it's the chemistry thing. I think them losing is actually good, because it shows them, like, okay, we just can't run it out. We have to actually work together as a unit and figure this thing out. And I think they'll figure that out. But like I said, every team that goes against Team USA, this is their gold medal game. Everyone wants to be that team. Like I remember in 2004 when Puerto Rico played the Americans and they beat them. And I think they lost the next game to some random country. And it's like, that was their gold medal game. Like they beat them by 20. So like when you play the Americans, that's the best of the best and you're going to give it to them, and doesn't matter what you medal and all that, you beat the Americans, that's going to live forever. To me, that's that mentality from these other countries is like, we're just going to go at them. They may not be taking this as serious as we are. So we get to take advantage of that. And I think the American teams, we have to be like, okay, they're coming at our neck. We have to be prepared and counter back, because if we counter, our counter is heavy and we can take over. So I think that's what the Americans need to do. I think those two little bumps, those losses are going to benefit them. And like I said, they're adding some reinforcements. JaVale McGee, you need a little JaVale McGee, maybe to add some spice to the team.
Got to Shaq the Fool. That's going to be interesting. Yeah, we've been shacking the fool in those games against Nigeria and fucking Australia.
Yeah. So, I think they'll be fine.
I'm glad you're confident. Okay, let's say this. How sure are you that they're going to win the gold medal? Let's phrase the question there.
You want a
percentage? 0 to 100.
90%.
90%. I wanted to say 90, but then a little part of my brain is just like, you lost to Nigeria. I'm going to say 75%. I'm going to say three-quarters of the way, because I'm just, again, putting myself in that mindset of, we have Damian Lillard, we have Kevin Durant, we have Jason Tatum, all these elite, talented guys, Devin Booker, Chris Middleton, the guys were just in the finals. Something's got to give. So 75%, three-quarters of the way there with you. All right, Team USA. I'm rocking that red and blue. I got a little white in the background. So
there you go.
Do it for the team.
Have faith, man. You gotta trust us. We gotta trust our countrymen to get it done. If they don't, then it's gonna be they're gonna be some changes made. But I'm confident they'll get it done.
Yeah, Pop. Coach K got us. Pop.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Coach K didn't have these issues, but
I've been seeing that. I've certainly been seeing that take on Twitter. Has anyone mailed it in more than Pop after Duncan left?
Yeah. He's coasting. He's enjoying time. I think he has one more year left as a coach. I think it's
one more year. Yeah, I'm just surprised. I thought he was done a couple of years ago, to be honest.
I think he's done mentally. I think he's checked out in a way. I think he's just grooming. I think Becky's going to be she's going to take over. And I think he's just setting the foundation for her, making sure that, once he's done, that she has everything in order to succeed, because it's going to be, wild for her, because, her being the first female head coach potentially. So making sure everything is set in place so that everything runs smooth for her,
Oh yeah. Really leaving her with a heck of a team. Patty Mills and, I don't think DeMar DeRozan's going to be there much longer.
No.
The word is, if you want to trigger some Canadians, tell them that DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are thinking about playing for the Lakers next season.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know where all that money is going to come from because they're going to command a nice chunk of change, but I don't know the fit. That's a crazy fit. It's a lot of oldness there.
Yeah, a lot of oldness, a lot of names, but that sounds like how LeBron has been mostly constructing these teams in recent years. When you really think about the rosters, that's always been kind of like a consistent thing with the teams LeBron goes to. Like he goes to them, gets a bunch of veteran guys, they quickly show their age, and then obviously he moves on to the next team. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's kind of what's happening with the Lakers. Let's bring in some Kyle Lowrys. Let's bring in a DeMar DeRozan. Hell, let's call up Kyle Korver and see what he's doing these days.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, especially that LeBron is getting older and he is showing his age a bit. I mean, his decline is different from most people's decline, but it's still a decline. Yeah. So I don't know why they don't try to pump in some youth there. I think having a good blend of both is good, but you know,
he's got that Al Davis GM vibes going on there.
Yeah, I don't get those fits, but hey, you know, let's see what happens.
One of the big things that we want to see what happens with is the Dame situation. Let's close it out here. Dame time. Who's trading for him? I don't think he can bring along that time stop ability from Space Jam, though, by the
way. No, he was actually cool in Space Jam.
It was probably the one cool thing from that little goon squad.
Yeah, but where does he go? Oh, man. There's a part of me that would love him in the Big Apple. A part of me would love that. I just don't think they have enough. But I honestly don't know where he's going to go. I know I'm pretty sure he wants out. And from a lot of reports, you hear the Knicks, you hear Lakers, the Warriors are chiming in. I don't know. I don't know what team. I don't want to say my team because that'll just jinx it. So I don't know. I think he gets traded. I really do. I just don't know where. I don't know where because I think it's going to be a bidding war. He's a tremendous player. You know, wherever he goes, Dame time's going to be special. But I don't think he can run it back in Portland anymore. I think that, you know, they're stuck in that purgatory, you know, where they're in the middle. And you don't want to be in the middle in the NBA. You either want to just full out stink and try to climb and or be in the top. But
yeah, in all honesty,
I don't know what team.
In all honesty, I see him back in Portland next year, and I'll explain why. I think that mostly that kind of fraternity that other players have with each other, I don't think he'll want to screw over Chauncey Billups like that, who just got the job. I think he'll give Chauncey at least a year to see what happens. You're hearing, though, like reports that the Trailblazers are turning down calls for CJ McCollum, too, as well. So they seem content to roll back that same roster construction. And I think that is a little concerning when you talk about, well, clearly Dame is having this vocal display because he's a little upset that they haven't really done anything to move the needle in a different direction. And I don't know if necessarily trading away CJ McCollum is that move. I'm sure Dame does like CJ and does like working with him, but I'm sure Dame also realizes that clearly this isn't getting it done. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what that perfect fit is. I don't know who's out there that the Blazers could potentially acquire that would make Dame feel more confident in his current situation out there in Portland. Almost 40-year-old Carmelo clearly wasn't also the right move for them either. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased here in this take. I would personally love Dame in Beantown. Put him in Boston. Now that would be amazing because part of also the trouble with this is finding a team that has the right pieces to really make this trade happen. Because
Boston has pieces.
Yeah, Boston has pieces. And as much as it would pain me to see it, I'm pretty sure like a Jaylen Brown would be part of that deal, for example, right? Because you're either trading away Tatum or Brown, and I think most people would say they'd be willing to part with Brown, unfortunately. And that may be more to the detriment of that team when you think about roster construction. Does it make sense to have Jason Tatum, who's a little less defensively inclined, and Dame, who obviously doesn't particularly care too much about defense on the same roster? Mm-hmm. No, but it'd probably be fun to watch, whereas Jaylen Brown does have a little bit of a defensive mindset to him. When you look at the Lakers, obviously, they don't have any pieces. Their best
No.
piece is Anthony Davis. I think Coward has made that take. He'd do it AD for Dame any day. And I could see that. I can see that argument there, put a elite
But
shooter.
then they have no defense.
Then they have no defense. And that's a whole other trouble there for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Obviously, letting Dwight Howard go too, I think was a mistake when you look at this team's fall off this year too. Yeah. There's that. There's the Knicks. What do the Knicks do? I mean, they probably trade away. What do you think? Maybe like what, RJ Barrett or something go?
Honestly,
a young piece like that
have to
go?
start at RJ Barrett. It really would. Like, why wouldn't, if you're Portland, why would you take anything less than the starting point at RJ Barrett? So that's been a big thing in Knicks world, is they want to give up RJ, but you got to give up some to get some. You're getting Dame Lillard. So that's been the biggest thing. And I just don't think the Knicks have enough unless they pull like a Harden. I mean, listen, Harden really didn't get traded for much. I mean, you would have to get a third team involved and all that. So that would be something, I think, if the Knicks were to get involved, they would definitely be in a 3-team deal, straight up. I just don't think Portland would look at what they get back, some late round picks and RJ and, maybe, quickly and all that. Like, those are solid players, but, you're giving up Dame. You want to see if you can get someone who could think can be somewhat close to being an all-star down the line. That depends what they feel about RJ. If they think he's that guy, if they think he's his guy, then maybe you could do it, but I don't know. So, but for the Knicks, I don't know. It's interesting. Boston, like you said, 76ers.
Like, if you're Portland, would you do Ben Simmons for Dame straight up? I would say probably not. I mean,
no, not
obviously
anymore.
Ben Simmons is a little bit of a head case at this point, like you have to do some not only physical fixing there, but some mental fixing on Ben Simmons' game to really make that one worth it.
It's the mental thing. But if they can think like, oh, if we fix it mentally, we get an MVP type player, so we don't know what they're thinking. That's the thing. That's the thing, is we don't know what these teams are thinking and how they value their players, because a lot of fans value their players more than what they really are,
Yeah.
So,
Chauncey didn't take that job with the expectation that he wouldn't have Dame in his locker room.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. But also Paul Silas, he thought the same thing. Paul Silas Jr. He thought the same thing, and he thought he was going to have Harden on his roster, and then Harden asks for a trade. So Steven Silas, I'm sorry, he thought the same thing, and then he got, Chauncey.
Well,
it's tough situation.
It's a tough position to be in, but for sure, I would say though this, Giannis winning could be potentially a good thing for the Blazers too. In the sense that we're talking about this narrative thrown out there. Homegrown players can win with the teams they were drafted by. It just takes the right GM fit, the right coaching, and the ability to put the pieces around that player to get it done. So I think that if you're a Portland fan and you just want that renewed faith in Damian Lillard staying with your team, I think seeing Giannis hold that trophy, hold that Larry O'Brien, gives you a little renewed sense of confidence in that belief. And if you're Dame and you've been starting to question the loyalty thing, maybe that kind of revives him, because he's been one of the most vocal loyalty guys out there too. Loyalty. I think that it would be such a blow to his image to be that guy. Whereas you mentioned James Harden being that guy, getting extremely fat, going to the strip clubs instead of practice. That's not Dame. At least that's not the Dame I think of.
Yeah, but he could be feeling that pressure because he is getting older. He's in his 30s already, and people are starting to, everyone loves Dame, but they're like, hey, as far as you got was the conference finals and you got swept. Now it was against Golden State and their super team, but still, that's the farthest you got. So the pressure is on for Dame. He wants to be that getting that superstar tier. You got to figure out things and how to get to a championship. And Portland has had some good teams too. Like they have some good players on their team, but he may just feel like he can't get it done. And it's tough. He's in a tough situation because I'm sure he does want to do what Giannis did, because then you're a legend forever. But
here's the thing, though. Does Dame necessarily need that ring, if he gets that ring via the super team method, to elevate himself above what we think he is now? And what I mean by that is, for example, Kyrie Irving already has a ring. He could win a ring with the Nets. And call me crazy, I still think Damian Lillard is a better player than him. I might be an absolute nut job on this one, but maybe it's my own personal bias against Kyrie Irving. But I look at Dame, even without the ring, looking at all the moments that Dame has put up, all the scoring performances, and I value Dame more as a player than I do Kyrie Irving. Especially the fact he's led that Portland team, whereas Kyrie Irving has never really led a team to the same success that Portland has.
I feel your bitterness of Kyrie being a Celtics fan.
That is definitely a part of this equation.
I had to think of why, and I was like, oh, he's a Celtics fan, but that's definitely, I could see people that, because he hasn't led a team too, and he's kind of been that co-captain, but he has. I think Kyrie is an absolutely tremendous player, and he's hit big time shots. Obviously, he hit the shot in Game 7 in 2016 to help win a championship and all that. But I could see why it's all about preference. I think they're right there with each other, so just a matter of what you prefer better. I know Kyrie's handles are good, Dame's big time shooting, his range. It's just a matter of preference. I think they're like right there with each other. But if you put Dame, switch him, I think Dame would have a championship too. I think he could do what Kyrie did with LeBron and all that. Yeah. And that's probably what he's thinking is like, if I join up with one of these guys, I can do what Kyrie was able to do. So, and Kyrie's a world champion, no matter what, whatever else he does, at the end of the day, he's still a world champion. And that's what Dame wants. He wants that feeling of being a world champion.
Yeah. I think of him as crybaby. No,
yeah,
I'm kidding.
I feel Celtics fans and how that ended, because it did not end well at all.
Can I get that crybaby like brewery stuff that they made for Aaron Rodgers, except put Kyrie on there? No, I'm kidding. Yes, I think I'm just wondering if that like title would elevate Dame over a player who's a similar comp like a Kyrie, because right now you said it's about even. Would I look at Dame any differently if he went to someone else's team? Like if he went to LeBron's team, would I look at that more as Dame's title, or look at that more as LeBron's title? Maybe if you did talk about the Colin Cowherd trade method of putting AD and Dame straight up, and that's literally just a LeBron Dame team, I might look at that team's title potentially with a little bit more fervor towards Dame. If it's AD, LeBron, and Dame, then I'm looking at that a little bit differently, it's
different. Yeah. I don't think LeBron's can. I don't think AD would even happen. I don't think LeBron would allow that, because that's AD is his guy.
I mean, so both came out in that movie. So
yeah. They're both in Space Jam, and
they were roasting AD's character while they were making Dame the coolest one in there. What does that tell you?
Yep, and that did speculate stuff too, which is kind of crazy how Space Jam speculated rumors that Dame's going to go to the Lakers and all that. But I think if that were to happen, Dame would join AD and LeBron and not AD. I know Stephen A. Smith said that too, a straight up trade. I'm like, LeBron's not going to do it. And then who's playing defense for them? You got to play defense a little bit. You don't have to play 90s defense, but you got to play some. And AD does that. I know he's injury prone, but
that's the thing. Like if you can't count on him to be on the court for the large majority of his career, you haven't been able to.
Yeah.
That is as much a part of the equation when people talk about Anthony Davis as anything,
Yeah.
Is he going to be there for LeBron? Is he going to be there for aging LeBron? Because people were expecting him to take the guy role, take that Batman role this year, but he never could do it.
I don't think that's just not him. I think everyone wants him to be that, but I just don't think that's him. I think he's the best co-captain you could possibly have, and that's okay. Kyrie was a great co-captain. He showed that he's not, can lead the team by himself, and it's not easy to do that,
But if you're the Lakers and you invested all this capital into him, you went out there, you traded every young player you could to acquire him. You want him to be that guy, because LeBron's obviously not going to be there forever. He's got maybe a couple more years in him tops. Who knows what he does after the Lakers?
But I think they'll add, someone's going to come. If LeBron retires, let's just after he retires this year, they'll find someone else to play with AD. Someone will play with AD. And
it is the Lakers.
Dame Lillard and all that. It is the Lakers. Someone will come with AD, and they can have a good team and all that. So I think, they can find other pieces once LeBron is retired in a year or two.
Even blue chip organizations like the Lakers obviously can go through some downtimes. Obviously, we talked about back end Kobe's career, and then after Kobe, it was rough times for Lakers fans. You were getting dogged by Clippers fans. I didn't even know they existed till 10 years ago.
Clippers took over for a little bit.
And then obviously, I hate to do a little roast here, but let's face it. Your Knicks have been considered one of those perennial blue chip organizations too. And obviously it's been a rough few years for you.
Yeah, tell me about
few
it.
decades.
Last 20 years, one playoff series win. It's definitely been tough, but things look like they're on the up and up. So that's a good thing.
Hey, too, I'll even self roast. This is a self burn. Those are rare, but the Celtics, man, every year I just look at them. I'm like, just underachieving. Obviously this year, now we got all this stuff going on with Brad Stevens now in the GM role. Danny Ainge is out. What's going to happen? We have that, I'm spacing on the name here, but the Nets assistant we just hired is our new head coach. Is he going to be the guy?
Udoka,
yeah. Is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum still going to be on this team? I think they got to break it up, unfortunately, mostly because clearly we've seen it. It's not working. It's not putting us over the hump. Whenever we go against the Bucks, we get smashed. So, I mean, we can beat the 76ers all day, but every time we go against the Bucks, that's a horrible matchup for us. And then, we'll see what happens with Jason Tatum as he goes. Yes, he's turning into one of the biggest superstars in the game, but as a Celtics fan perspective, you would say that in the clutches of moments, he has come up just a little bit short, whether that be that fingertip block by Bam a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He did have opportunities to tie some of the games against Miami inside the bubble and missed some wide open shots. So, that is a little concerning, for the long-term perspective. Obviously, we want to see that Mamba mentality take over for Jason Tatum and his next step as a superstar. So a lot of changes going on in Boston, a lot of, ascension going on for your New York Knicks there, mostly defensive team. Good. Congrats to Tom Thibodeau, Julius Randle. Things are looking a little bit better than they were. Who knows? Maybe RJ Barrett has a Devin Booker type ascension too.
Hey, you never know. And that's the hope. That's the hope. He's still very young. And I think that's that untapped potential that I think is very intriguing with RJ, because there's some people who don't think he has a high upside. They think he just might be what he is. But it's hard. I always say it's hard. How do you say that about a 20-year-old that he can't get better? Like, we've seen it. Devin Booker. Did anyone think he was going to be a 28, one of the top leading scorers and in the league with Devin Booker? We've seen this with a bunch of guys. So Jaylen Brown, your own Jaylen Brown. Did anyone see him?
Trae Young,
people were doubting Trae Young after beginning of the season. He struggled in his first year, and
I'll own it. I'll own it. I like Devin Booker, Trae Young, those guys. Here's one of my biggest things between the NFL and the NBA. I always felt like the NBA had this bad history of just propping up these guys that just put on what I consider stat padding numbers, whether that be a guy like, this may be controversial, but Russell Westbrook or someone. I see all these fantastic stat lines, these huge numbers, but I come from that football philosophy of, was it a win or was it a loss? And I see them hyping up a guy like Devin Booker for the 70-point games, the 50-point games, the 40-point games.
He lost that game too.
Trae Young, same kind of thing. And then when I look at that standings, it's 19 wins, 20 wins. And that's what, when I looked at those guys, I was like, I think it's just all hype. It's all fluff. It's NBA media just like propping up a guy for the sake of propping him up. But then, this season taught me a big lesson in patience. Being patient for those guys. And I now are giving them a little bit more like leeway whenever I see a guy like that on the come up, whether it be now a RJ Barrett. And that's just a lesson that I myself, I'm 27 here, I have a lot to learn. I don't claim to know everything here. And I'm you listen to coming up on the 2-year anniversary of this podcast. I had a lot to learn with this, so and you just keep getting better. And obviously that's what some of these stars did. They just kept getting better. Now if in 4 years, 5 years, you're looking like Ben Simmons, who can't still hit a shot in the fourth quarter, then that's a problem.
Yeah. And like you said, getting better, like these guys we forget that they're so young. We're like Devin Booker is still 24 years old. We forget that he's still a baby. Like RJ is a 20-year-old. Like Jason Tatum's 22, 23. Like, these guys are young, and we expect them to be the face of to be a playoff team from complete the jump. Trae Young is in his third year in the league, and the first 2 years people were saying, "Oh, he's not going to be a winner." I had someone told me that you can't win with him, and I'm like, you can. How can you say that you can't? Like, he's like, but he hasn't done. I was like, he's in his second year in the league, and this was last year. I was like, how can you say that? Like, It's like, and then guess what happened this year? He took his team to and he got hurt, and maybe they get to the finals if he's healthy and all that. So these guys could get better. Patience, and doing a lot of NBA draft stuff, and just the way to evaluate these guys. Everyone wants instant impact, but it's like everyone's development's different. Everyone develops at a different pace, a different rate. So just being patient with these guys. Some guys pop quicker, like Luka popped from the jump, but Luka was also playing pro basketball at, from the womb. So, he's different. So some guys pop there. Some guys wait till they're 24, 25, like Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. They pop differently, so just being patient with these guys and empty stats. I know that's a thing too. But we saw with Devin Booker, he was one of the kings of the empty stats, right? Like you said, 71 points, they lost though. And that was the same thing. I was like, 71 points, but you lost. But you also have to look at who is around him. And if you look at that team, you're like, oh, okay, I understand why he shot the ball all those times, because that team wasn't good. So, and they finally put the right pieces, and it was a slow build, right? Because before the bubble, that Phoenix team, they were at blow up. James Jones fired, Monty Williams fired, one and done, Booker traded, and then they have that run, and then they have patience, and then boom, look what happened this year. They were 2 wins away from a final. So just patience in any sport, football too. We see the patience for quarterbacks are very thin. The guy's a bust after 1 year. Just relax, be patient. These are young people at the end of the day. Everyone's, like I said, everyone's pace, growth is different. Just be patient, and we'll see. We saw Trae Young do things, Booker do things. I think that's changed a lot of people's mindsets with the young people.
Well, that is a great lesson, not only for the game of basketball, sports, but life in general. Patience, people. Patience
is
when you've been patiently waiting for the end of this podcast, maybe eagerly, maybe less so patiently waiting for the end, but we are coming towards that point. So before we head off, and before Chris gives all the appropriate plugs for the Off the Ball Network, Chris, you got to put a final rating on it. 1 to 5, Space Jam 2.
Okay. Put my my movie critic hat on. Let's give it a 3. Put it right in the middle.
Okay,
solid
right
film.
in the middle.
Solid.
Okay.
Solid. Enjoyed it.
Gotcha.
To me, I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. So to me, that's right in the middle.
Non-committal to bad or good. Okay, I love it.
Right in the middle. Right. It's kind of like Space Jam 1. It was. I think that was a nostalgia with the first one. I think that's so everyone's so worked up about it. But it was a nice film. Enjoyed it.
Guys, it's nostalgia. You go back and watch Space Jam 1. It's nostalgia. Like
it's not Denzel, performing at trading day. Like I think people just over.
No, when you see Newman getting blown up with the air pump, that should just tell you. When you see the green screen in the background, it's like seeing your girl without makeup for the first time. That's exactly what watching Space Jam is with adult lenses.
Yeah. And I think people need to, and that's how you have to watch the movie. Forget about Space Jam 1 that even existed. Just watch it, and the beginning will be rough. Like we said, Julia, is rough, but it gets a little better, and you at the end of it, you'll be like, "Oh man, I thought that was better than expected."
I think this is fine. I think this is a lesson of that old saying: "A pig with lipstick is still a pig."
Yeah, it is. It is what it was, and that's it. So.
All right. Well, give us the plugs, man. Drop them below. Where do people follow? How do people listen? What are you working on next? Yeah. Chris LeBron of the Off the Ball Podcast Network.
Yeah, man. Like, first of all, thanks for having me on to start off the day. Well, on the pod talking to you, so I appreciate you having me on. You can follow me Off the Ball Pod on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. Off the Ball Podcast on Instagram, Facebook. You can follow me on YouTube. I'm doing a lot more YouTube stuff with the channel. You can listen to the podcast on all podcast platforms, like also on YouTube. Doing a lot of NBA draft stuff with the draft coming up this Thursday. I'm going to be on some shows, doing some draft stuff. So catch me on there. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, and I have all the updates on there. And then you can follow my network, Off the Ball Network, OTB_network on Twitter, Off the Ball Network on Facebook. We do a lot of live shows on there, so check that out. And offtheballnetwork.com also. We got a lot of great articles, a lot of great stuff on there, so check that out. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on, brother.
Anytime, man. Well, Guys, you heard all the plugs. Go ahead and follow this man. A lot of good stuff, a lot of exciting stuff. Get some merch, OTB Network. Check it out. Yep. But obviously you're checking us out. You're listening. So subscribe, guys. Leave that 5-star review. Drop in the comments below. Like this video. All that fantastic, exciting stuff that helps our channel grow and helps us provide more content for you. Of course, one of the biggest things that helps us grow too is supporting our partners, whether that be cavemancoffeeco.com. Go ahead, get yourself some delicious cold brew coffee from cavemancoffeeco.com and use that promo code SLUMP to save yourself some money on your next purchase. All right, guys, I need you to stay safe, happy, and healthy. 2 more episodes before we hit the century mark. We'll see you next time.